Hello and welcome to ADHD Support Talk Radio. My name is Tara McGillicuddy and I am the host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm an adult ADD and ADHD productivity coach, and I am also the founder and director of ADDclasses.com. And at ADDclasses.com, we provide virtual support and education to people affected by ADD and ADHD. We offer free webinars. We have an extensive ADD audio library with more than 175 courses, and we also offer more in-depth support programs. You can learn more about ADDclasses.com and sign up for a free webinar by going to ADDclasses.com. And with that, I would like to welcome back Jodi Sleeper-Triplett to ADHD Support Talk Radio. And we're going to be talking about returning to college as an adult. But before we get started talking about the topic, Jodi, can you let our listeners know a bit about yourself and how to get in touch with you after the show?
Absolutely. It's great to be back with you, Tara. To get in touch with me, just to have that out there first, it's jstcoaching.com, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but there's a lot on the website as well. I'm a coach trainer and a coach. Specializing in ADHD for students. And our company has classes for different types, continuing ed courses, full courses to get you through to your coaching credential. And I have been in this work, doing this work for about 20 years now. I actually hit my 20th anniversary, which amazes me. Wow. But it is so great to do the work that we love to do. And I know, Tara, you can relate to that for sure.
Great. Wow, 20 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. And one more thing, for those who are going while you're listening, if you're going onto the website, if you type in, if you register for a class and put in the word, all one word, Give Hope, GIVEHOPE, you'll get $250 off any of our classes.
Oh, wow. Great. All right, so let's start talking about college as an adult. And this is an interesting topic, and I do get a lot of people talking about this. There are a lot of adults who return to college in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, a lot of people are doing that now. And when you have ADHD, you know, college can be challenging if you don't have the right tools and strategies set up. So where would you like to begin when we start talking about this, Jodi?
Well, I mentioned some of the pitfalls, things that get in the way for adults with ADHD and planning to go back to school would be a great place to start, just to identify, because I really believe that, as you said, there's so many people going back to school, and it's a struggle for many for sometimes similar reasons, like low self-esteem, feeling like I'm too old to go back, not having certain skills, wondering, you know, what's it going to be like for me to try to focus again. Mm-hmm. And it's a barrier that when you think about it, because there are so many older students going back, there are more supports available than a lot of adults realize. And I want to encourage them to go and check that out, even if it means starting slowly. And I think one of the pitfalls, too, is that for adults, we think, oh, well, I'm going to do what I did when I was younger, if they went to school before, is I'm going to take 5 classes and work full-time and have a family. It's like, wait a minute. Great enthusiasm. Let's take it slow. So getting into over their heads, making a plan that isn't realistic, whether that's financially, time management, planning, all of those executive functioning issues that get in the way can really get in the way when you add in this new dimension into life.
I mean, things are different than, you know, when you're 18, you know, your brain works differently, you're more mature, but you have a lot more responsibilities as an adult than you did, you know, right when you graduated high school. And I think a lot of people don't take that into account as much as they should when they return to school.
Right. And some of it is that shame of, I didn't get my degree before and I'm just going to do this. And no one needs to know. Yeah. And I get it, but that's where it creates more of a problem. So being honest with, this is new and different, and it's important to go back slowly because otherwise that feeling of failure and overwhelm and shame will just come back again.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot more options when it comes to college now than there was 10, 15 years ago. A lot of people do classes one at a time. You don't have to register for 4 or 5 classes at a time. So, and you don't have to sit in a classroom for 3 hours a night after you worked a 9-to-5 job. There are a lot of different options now, which I think can be overwhelming to some people because there are so many options, but you don't have to just sit there and be exhausted in the classroom.
No, that's very true. And the more that hear about adults going back, there are some great support systems at colleges and universities. And in my work, when I travel around and teach them some people's coaching skills, that's what's coming up as well. Our students are older. We have to work on the transition and the balance, and everything that we're talking about here is something that the schools know about. More online classes, being careful to make sure that you can sit and do an online class, and there are those that are self-paced.
Yes.
So if you can take a self-paced one, and that's where it's looking at personally what's best for you, to go into a classroom, be with other people, to work on your own, to do something that maybe they have like weekend intensives for certain programs, if it's doable to get away from home and go do that and immerse yourself in it. And hyper-focus can be great in those situations, absolutely. So those are some things that can really help move it forward.
Now, I know like emotions and self-esteem can really impact somebody when they go back to school. Can we talk about that a bit?
Sure. Emotions come from so many different places that I hear from the adults that I've talked to. It's the overload of having too much to do, the overwhelm, and that feeling that there's a great feeling of success when you get through the first course or 2 courses, like you can do this. But until you get there, so many people beat themselves up. Oh, I'm not going to be good at this. I can't do that. Certainly hear it from students with ADHD and learning disabilities of all ages, but I'm noticing that negative self-talk keeps going all the way through, and for many adults, they're just feeling like they're behind, like it's too late for me. And so all of that gets in the way of progress. And the piece that is difficult to do is to stay upbeat, to say, okay, I'm acknowledging that this is an emotional time. This is kind of scary. And walk into a classroom and realize, hey, I'm not the only one with gray hair.
Yeah.
And they're not all kids. So being able to make that connection gives a great sense of relief. But I encourage people to acknowledge the fact in advance that this is not necessarily going to be easy. And that's not that I'm saying don't do it. It's do it with the understanding that you want to start having some positive reinforcement, whether that's from a coach, family, friends, maybe taking a course with someone else, something that will allow you to feel less overwhelmed and less alone. And it's, Tara, that when people talk about what it's like to get up in front of a group of people and imagining them on their pajamas. Well, we're all in our pajamas, and everybody's feeling the same way. So it's so great to be able to get over that hurdle, but it does take time, and I would recommend even taking a course that's fun to start with, rather than Math 101 again. That makes a big difference too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of adult learning, like fun classes, like painting, different things that people could do to get back into the learning mode. Yeah, like before taking math or English Comp 2 or the, the class that you flunked 20 years ago. It's good to have a positive experience.
Yeah, and another thing that's great about going back to school as an adult is that as adults, we have interacted with more people, whether it's in the workplace, volunteering, other family involvement. But one of the things that's nice is you can go and talk to a professor, adult to adult. That might be the professor, but that professor is just like you.
Yeah.
Has an area of expertise. You probably have an area of expertise, and you want to go in and say, hey, I'm here, I'm back. And they're very appreciative when students will come up and talk to them and set up appointments to discuss the fact that I haven't done this in 20 years or even 5 years. How do I get back on that horse and do it again? So I really, that's what I like about when I think of myself as an adult learner. My questions are so much different than they were, how many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And that makes it much more interesting for both the learner and the professors.
Mm-hmm. Now, schools, I don't know, are they still geared towards the 18-year-old, the college? I mean, it's like I think they understand that mindset. Do colleges understand adult learners? And are they preparing for adult learners?
They are. And there are some organizations that focused on continuing ed and adult learners, large national organizations now that didn't exist before. And their focus is how do we support adult learners? And the schools that I would say, or the colleges and universities that would be less likely, some of those traditional campuses, whether you think about Ivy League schools or some traditional four-year colleges that might end up getting more students coming in from high school. But when you look at the larger schools, even though that might sound a little odd for some, is why do I want to go to a big school when I'm going back, is that the larger school has a more diverse population and more opportunities for you to explore different disciplines on the same campus. Another fabulous option is going back to community college, because many of the people who teach, the professors at community college, are also out in the workplace. So they come in and they teach one or two courses in their area of interest or expertise, and they're out there just like the rest of us, working, have a family. So they get it. They really understand that struggle of trying to make ends meet and come up with a schedule to get everything done.
Now, I think
that's a great way.
You talked a bit about some people going back to college just to kind of finish the degree or to kind of, I don't know, prove that they can do it. Do people do better when they go for that reason, or do they do better, say, oh, I definitely want to become a teacher, or I want to become an accountant, or or something like that? Is there any difference with the reasons they're going back to school?
That's a great question. It doesn't matter what the reason is, as long as that reason resonates with the person.
Okay.
So if you have excitement around, I want to get my certification in this particular computer programming direction, or I want to learn web design, or again, you want to go back and get a teaching certification. If that's something that excites you, the chances of sticking with it are much higher than if you're saying, I need to just go take my basics, my math and my English and my science. It doesn't mean those aren't important if you're going for a full degree, but often there are options. One is to see if you can place out of some of those basics, because we know adults with ADHD are some of the most intelligent, creative people on the planet. So to go in and say, hey, I want to see if I can test out of these basics, then they can get credit for that and jump into the next level. But when your self-esteem is low, you don't think that that's an option.
Yeah.
But it really is.
Is it called CLEP? Is that? I know you can test out of some of those basic. I don't know if I have the
You
word
can
right.
with CLEP. Yes, CLEP, C-L-E-P. And then there are other things that you can do that are specific to the schools.
Yeah.
So if you have an interest in a certain college or university, to check in with them and find out, how does this work for you? What do you accept, and what's your process?
Yeah. Some schools even, you can create like a portfolio where you get credits for life experience, whether it's in the workplace or even if you raised a family, depending on the school. So there are different options. So, even if you say you took 3 courses years ago and now you think you have to do 100 credits, you may not have to take those 100 credits the traditional way. Maybe you can clap out, test out. Maybe you can do a portfolio. There are a lot of different options now, which I'm not sure a lot of adults are familiar with or even understand that they're out there.
Right, and that feeling that, oh, I'm going to have to do it the way I did it the first time and I failed, or the way my kids are doing it. Toss that aside and know that there are options. I'm always thrilled when I hear about someone going back to school, or there are articles in newspapers, things on the news about people who are much older going back and getting a degree. It doesn't mean it's easy to start with, but they find ways. And so it's being creative and again, parking that low self-esteem or the belief that I can't do this and get started.
Now, what about working with a coach? I'm guessing since you train coaches that that's something you'd recommend. And I know your company trains coaches to work with students. Are coaches trained to work with adults who are going back to school?
They are, because when you think about what a student has to do, and the reason that I focus on students is that it's when that's the area that the person spends most of their time in. An adult going back to school might need help with executive functioning, how to do the time management, the planning, prioritizing, breaking down assignments, balancing personal and professional life and school. All of those things are taught in our classes. It's just that many of the people who come for training are looking to also learn how to work with kids, because that's a specialty that we have that no one else does. So being able to take those skills and transfer them, a lot of our coaches work with adult students. I know for myself, I've worked with people working on their master's degrees, on their PhDs, getting through a dissertation, step by step by step. Amazing ideas and plans, but they need that support. And coaching is a great support because we, check in by text, see how you're doing. If you're stuck on something, not sure how to manage it, that's what the coach is there for. Yeah.
And I know people, think, oh, coaching's just another expense. It's money I don't really have. But if you're in school and you're investing all this time, energy, and money, investing in a coach, that can make a world of difference. That, is probably one of the best investments you can make when it comes to education.
Absolutely. When you consider how small the cost is and compared to, as you said, the expense of an education, it really makes a difference. And there are coaches that we train who are might offer sliding scale to people. We have a directory right on the JST coaching website. And so there's an opportunity to talk to different people and find out, who will be the best coach to support you. But absolutely, in the same way, for those adults who are thinking that this might be a waste of money or too much of an expense, well, you think about people in business. We hire coaches to get us to the next step and to help us navigate the murky waters of business and grow and change. Well, college is the same thing when you're going back as an adult, because the landscape of college, the whole process is so different than it was 20, 30 years ago. So it's definitely worthwhile to have someone on your side.
Yeah, and I think there are people that put the time, money, and investment into starting college or going back and get frustrated after a couple classes, couple semesters, and if they put, made that investment in a coach, they may, have been more likely to earn the degree, earn their certification, and get through school.
Absolutely. And one other thing that just came to my mind, in some of the colleges, there are coaches available on campus. And as an adult with ADHD, it's important to advocate for what you need. And that might include saying, do you have a learning center? Do you have coaches on staff that I can take advantage of? Sometimes it is an extra fee, but it would be different than a private coach. Either way, just being able to get that type of support can make a big difference in the success of venturing back to college.
Yeah, so advocacy is extremely important when you're in school.
Yes. And it's never too late to advocate for yourself, and it's not something that to be ashamed of. Whereas we see that all the time, the number of students who take advantage of accommodations and advocate for themselves is very low. We're looking at like 25 or 30%, but most of those are the younger students that they're looking at. For adults, hey, I'm going to go back. I want to know that school's going to support me. So the more noise we make as adults returning to school, and for adults with ADHD going in and saying, this is how I learn the best, how can you help me with that?
Yes.
That's a valid question.
Oh, it is. And I think when you're an adult, I mean, I'm in my 40s now, and I was at 18. I just wanted to, like, sit in class, not be noticed, and, hide. In my 40s when I take classes, I'm more active, and if something's going on that doesn't sit well with me, I will advocate for myself. And so, the advocacy skill is good. And I think that's one thing that, as an adult, you have the upper hand with. It's easier for you to advocate. You have more skills, and the emotional, you can advocate better as an adult than, at 18, 19 years old.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. And that's why you want to take advantage of all the life lessons that you've learned, and be able to present your case, so to speak, and let the people that you are paying to help you learn, to help them understand how to help you learn the best.
Okay, we are actually towards the end of today's episode. Jodi, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with people today? And can you definitely make sure you give out your contact information again? Sure.
I guess the big piece that I want to leave all of you with who are listening is that it's worth it. If college is something you want and your curiosity is up and your energy is there, check it out. There are so many different ways, as Tara and I have been talking about. Go for it. If we can help you with anything, whether that's becoming a coach and that kind of training, it's www.jstcoaching.com, and you can reach me through the website anytime.
Okay, thank you so much, Jodi Sleeper-Triplett, and thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to ADHD Support Talk Radio. Make sure you stop by our new website at ADHDSupportTalk.com. Thanks again.